Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Rank, where I climb the online series 10 ladder and provide live commentary as I go. Today we are using the team that Santino Tarquinio used to get first place at the Players Cup 25th Invitational Tournament, which was broadcasted this past weekend. Santi had an amazing run throughout the tournament. He actually ended up defeating 5 world champions in a row to claim first place. And yeah, I mean, he was up against really one of the most stacked fields ever in the history of the game, right? Like, we had 5-6 world champions in that field, as well as Players Cup champions. And Santi, being one of the newer players to that field, just put on a clinic and absolutely dominating performance. So yeah, if you haven't seen like all his games, I would highly recommend it. They're on Pokemon's Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Pokemon. And if you really want to see this team used by a true master, go watch him. Because when I was commentating his games, was just amazed at, one, how good the team was, but two, his ability to play flexible with it. This team has a little bit of everything, and, you know, it was the perfect call for a closed team sheet tournament because Santi, even though the Pokemon look relatively standard, has a lot of surprises on the team. And it starts with that Choice Scarf on Kyogre. Now, you're probably thinking, Choice Scarf on Kyogre? I mean, isn't that one of the most obvious items on Kyogre? And the answer to that is yes. But the thing is, when you look up where the metagame was shaking up for the first 2 weeks of Series 10 and the first couple of weeks, so many players were defaulting to Mystic Water or Sea Incense. I think when I looked at like Pikalytics just a couple of days ago, the split was like only 20% of users on Kyogre actually had Choice Scarf. That'll probably go up a lot after Santi's win because this team is going to drastically evolve and impact the metagame. But you know, you could see like for the majority of Kyogres, players just weren't actually using Choice Scarf despite it just being such a strong item. So Choice Scarf on Kyogre is really essential because the other restricted Pokemon are really common in this format are Pokemon like Xerneas, Calyrex, Shadow Rider, and Zacian. Now, you notice that all of those Pokemon have higher base speed stats than Kyogre, and a lot of those Pokemon are often paired with Tailwind. So, the main thing here is that with that Choice Scarf on Kyogre and the Tailwind support from Tornadus, well, even if your opponent has Tailwind, the Kyogre will still just outspeed Xerneas, Zacian, or Calyrex before they can attack. And that's such a big deal. Even if you don't one-shot them with the Water Spout, dealing, say, 70-80% of damage is, like, huge, right? Even just over 50%, because then you can use the rest of the team to finish it off, especially with the amount of priority that you have with Grassy Glide from the Rillaboom, Grassy Glide from Tsareena, and the Surging Strikes from the Urshifu. So all of those add up. So Choice Scarf in itself is already a really good call. Of course, there's so many cool techs to this team as well, right? You have the Rain Dance and the Wakam Bulky Tornadus, and Icy Wind. Hurricane Tailwind, you know, pretty standard moves on Tornadus. There's no Protect on this Tornadus, but this team doesn't need Protect nearly as much because you're not at risk of getting faked out nearly as much because of the Tsareena with Queenly Majesty. That already puts on pressure in Team Preview. You know, Incineroar is the most common fake out user in the format. A lot of players aren't even going to bring Incineroar out because of the fact that it just gets demolished by the Kyogre and the Urshifu. And so, like, you can notice that only one Pokemon on this team has a protecting move that's Detect on Urshifu. And Tornadus here, being bulkier with the Wakam with the Queenly Majesty, means that you don't actually often get one-shot by things. So you have a little bit more bulk to work with. Icy Wind's really valuable because, once again, it gives you another means of speed control and also really helps out in those Tailwind mirrors, for example. And then Rain Dance is really cool. It's used primarily with combination with Urshifu, for example, so you can Rain Dance and Surging Strikes, but it's also valuable into Groudon teams. A lot of times, you know, the idea for Groudon's, okay, let me just switch in, change the weather. Well, with Rain Dance on Tornadus, you can just go Rain Dance and Water Spout and just KO Groudon on a switch in, for example. And so that's also really strong. And finally, we have to talk about the two coolest Pokemon on this team, the Tsareena and the Weavile. Now, Tsarena's been something that's existed in Series 10 for a while. It's been a staple of the format, but that's a little bit different, right? I think up until now, almost every Tsareena I've seen has been Assault Vest. Very few run Citrus Berry. And this Tsareena is just so well composed, right? You've got Grassy Glide, Triple Axle, U-Turn. So those are all still offensive moves that you'll typically see on AV Tsareena. Sometimes Power Whip over Grassy Glide. But then you have the Taunt. The Taunt, I can't stress, is so critical to this team, and it was such a big reason for why Santi won a lot of his matches in the tournament, because he was able to make very safe plays with that Taunt, including taunting an Amoonguss, for example, taunting a Dusclops to deny Trick Room, and often that actually would just put him in a game-winning position, because a lot of the Pokemon that Taunt shuts down, like Amoonguss and Dusclops, you actually still kind of get two-shot by a Water Spout from Kyogre. So it's like, those Pokemon typically will aim to just get one really big turn to set up the rest of the team, but a Taunt will stop them, and then also put them in a completely useless position. So I absolutely love the Taunt and the Citrus Berry combination here, and once again, you know, it doesn't seem super wild, but the reality is that very few players were running the set on Tsareena specifically. And Santi fitted onto his team. You know, you already have the AV on Rillaboom as well, so that naturally makes a lot of sense. And then finally, the Weavile. This is probably the best use of Wide Lens that I've ever seen on a Pokemon. And the reason is because Triple Axle rolls multiple accuracy checks for each time that it hits, right? Or each time that it's used. So when you use it, you know, you can hit up to 3 times, but each of those 3 times calculates an individual accuracy roll at 90%. So your odds of hitting 3 are just over, you know, 72%, right? If you're using triple axle without wide lens. Now what wide lens does is convert that 90% individual rate into 99%. So then instead of rolling 90% 3 different times, you're rolling 99% 3 separate times. So it improves the probability of you hitting all 3 times from like just over 70% to like 97+%, right? That's like a 25+% differential, which is super, super wild, right? Like I can't think of really another move that wide lens just has so much mileage with. And so that's really critical. Weavile, such a great call into this tournament as well, because it just is amazing into so many common Pokemon like Rillaboom, like Tsareena, like Landorus, for example, like Amoonguss. There's so many grass types that are viable in this format. Triple Axle can actually one-shot so many of them. Weavile is also just really good into frail Pokemon, like it can one-shot things like Mienshao, for example. And so it just does a ton of damage, and you have so much more confidence clicking Triple Axle with that wide lens. Lash Out is used here. You know, that's valuable if your opponent leads Incineroar, for example. Fake Out's classic. And then you have Feint, which is also such a cool move. Another really critical move to Santi's, you know, tournament run. Was able to just get some surprise feints and kind of just win the game on turn 1 by getting a really, really big surprise KO. So to me, this is one of the most complete Series 10 teams I've seen. I'm not surprised that Santi was able to win with it, because not only was the team so well composed, but he was also just really a phenomenal player. And, you know, if Worlds were happening this weekend, he'd definitely be one of the favorites, if not the favorite to win the tournament. So congratulations to him once again on an amazing tournament run. I know I've spent a fair amount of time talking about this team, but it is just so good. Like, this is truly an amazing team. And, you know, one of the things that's really interesting is that we don't have too many big tournaments to push the metagame. Well, we just had the Invitational. And to me, this is not only a really consistent team, but it's also really darn good. So I think you're going to see the metagame now evolve a little bit. People try to counter Choice Scarf Kyogre, whether it be like Sunny Day, for example, on things, or running scarves on even faster Pokemon, for example. But it's just such a cool team. Go watch Santi play in that tournament. And yeah, let's jump into Road to Rank. Question of the day, I want to know what your favorite support Pokemon is with us using Tsareena and Weavile. So let me know in the comment section below. Leave a like if you enjoy. And yeah, let's get started. First match of the day, let's see what we're up against. Xerneas. Okay. So, they also have Trick Room. The Indeedee plus Stakataka here is definitely a little bit worrisome. However, Tsareena does have Taunt, so that's a little bit handy. Yeah, I don't know. Indeedee plus Stakataka here as a lead actually makes a fair amount of sense to me. The interesting thing is that Urshifu is actually faster than a lot of their Pokemon under Trick Room. Kyogre's okay. Like, I could just go Tornadus Kyogre, obviously, but then if they just go Indeedee plus Stakataka... Oh, you can Trick Room if you're Wide Guarding, though. Yeah, that's the main thing. So I'm actually fine with Tornogre here, I think. And then in the back, probably just Rillaboom and Tsareena here. Urshifu is not a bad bring, though, honestly. Especially because of Focus Sash. So I actually could give up Tsareena for Urshifu. Okay. Yeah, I think that's not a bad idea here. Because Tsareena's not that important. It does have good damage with Glide and Axel, but having Focus Sash on Urshifu means that even if Xerneas gets set up, well, I can still potentially just survive an attack and then, you know, get a big Surging Strikes against you in return. So it is scary because Stakataka does get access to Wide Guard, but the thing is I can just Scald if I'm nervous about Wide Guard at the start of the game. It's going to be Gieleki plus Xerneas. Okay, this is actually pretty desirable for us, I'd say. I mean, honestly, the only thing here is that I think Xerneas is always protecting. And then the question is, do you have Focus Sash on Regieleki? It is a fairly common item on Gieleki. Like, honestly, here, Tailwind plus Water Spout is so obvious. It's just me trying to play around Focus Sash, but the thing is, let's say I Water Spout and then they Thunderbolt us, it's really bad. So what I'm actually going to do here is Icy Wind, drop their speeds, and then bring out Rillaboom. Because then what I can do is Tailwind knock off Xern next turn. I don't know. I just, like, I'd be shocked if Xerneas Geomancy's here. Like, you just have to respect Tailwind Water Spout turn 1. I'm always protecting Xerneas in my opponent's position here. Honestly. Okay, there it is. Good. Like, it's a little bit risky, right? But it's like, would you really attack there? And they Volt Switch. Okay, perfect. I guess Volt Switch there is pretty scary, actually, because this should be Indeedee coming in now. The main question is whether or not you were Focus Sashed. So there is Indeedee. Now you should just go Geomancy. And follow me, right? The thing is, yeah, the main thing is now I get to, I mean, the question here is whether or not they actually respect the knockoff, because what I can do is just go Tailwind knockoff. And if Xerneas tries to Geomancy there, like, it's such a cheesy play. The play I'd prefer to go for is just Tailwind and U-turn here. But my opponent might get greedy and click Expanding Force. I don't think... I'm going to just assume they're going to play smart here. So, go for the Tailwind and then go for the U-turn. What that allows me to do is pivot Kyogre in for free and then start clicking Water Spout. Yeah, there's Follow Me. Like, the knockoff play is cute, but if they just go for the safe play of Follow Me Geomancy, it just doesn't come close to working, right? So, why bother? Either way, nice lead by them. It has to be Sashaleki, I would think. That's interesting to note how slow their Xerneas is. Like, Rillaboom under Tailwind outspeeds. Oh, sorry, yeah. They haven't Geomancied yet, obviously. But the good thing here is now I outspeed your Xerneas, right? And I can just go for Water Spout and Icy Wind. And then with the Tailwind up, if I get this Icy Wind off, then the Urshifu will outspeed and just get a huge Surging Strikes off against you. The main thing that's the problem for us in this game is Indeedee, right? We want to eliminate that Indeedee because it not only offers redirection, but also puts up that Psychic terrain. Rillaboom Grassy Glide into Xerneas does like 30-40% in terrain. So, being able to eliminate Indeedee early on is important for us. Now I'm going to just go for that Icy Wind and go for that Water Spout. And the reason I'm still going for Water Spout here is because I just need burst damage onto Xerneas right now. It also just covers for any switch in that the Indeedee could switch out into right now. So I feel pretty good about this so far. Nicely done, though. I think my opponent probably had their best lead. Okay, they go for Helping Hand. Honestly, Kyogre might survive Helping Hand Gleam, so if so, that'd be really sweet. Huge damage from Water Spout there. I would think Surging Strikes can KO. Okay, they Moonblast into Kyogre, so that's going to pick up the knockout, but that's fine, I think, because now I get the free switch in into Urshifu. Yeah, that works for me. And they don't have terrain control anymore. Okay, so we can bring in Urshifu, and because we have Focus Sash, and we've eliminated their Indeedee, if lucky, what's coming out here, first of all? It's Incineroar. Okay, perfect. The reason Incineroar coming out here is perfect is because you can't fake out into Urshifu, and I can just crit all the Surging Strikes onto Xern right now. And you can't protect in front of us. So here, I don't mind just going for Hurricane onto the Xerneas and Surging Strikes onto Xerneas. Yeah, I think we're... The question here is whether or not Surging Strikes and Ring KO Xerneas with the triple crit. I'm not sure it does. It's close. But I did need to Tailwind. No, not necessarily. Well, I didn't know what their last one was going to be, right? And I really wanted to get Icy Wind off against Xerneas to ensure that we outspeed. Yeah, they're just going to fake out into Torn. That's fine. Alright, let's see. May have also been correct to target the Incineroar this turn. I'm not sure. Oh, this should be a KO for sure. Nice. That's the beauty of this, the synergy with this team, right? Kyogre just sets up Urshifu so well by setting up the rain. So, my opponent did a really good job setting up the Geomancy, but the thing is, this team has plenty of resources to deal with Xerneas, even if it's set up, right? I think for a lot of teams, it's very easy to just fold to Xerneas as soon as it sets up. And even though this team actually doesn't have fairy resistances, like, it's not the end of the world. So that's super nice. So we still have our Focus Sash intact, even if you're something wild like Choice Scarf Kyogre. We should always win the game with Rillaboom soloing the Aleki. So what we can do here is just Hurricane into the Aleki Slum. Surging Strike should always KO the Incineroar here. Maybe it's better to actually Hurricane Strikes into Incin there, but yeah, I'm fairly confident this is going to KO. Let's see. It actually might not. It's really close. Oh, they're not even buried. Okay. Even if they were buried, though, we did like 45% per hit. So, yeah. Citrus definitely doesn't save you there. And one of the bulkier berries, you gain, 33. But, like I said, we were doing 45 per hit. It's probably better to double up into Incin, though, just because we always win against Aleki there. So, yeah. They're just going to T-Bolt Urshifu. But this is the nice thing, right? Like, it's funny how one trend in this metagame is that a lot of players are using, like, Mystic Water Urshifu now. But with this one, the... when Peter's out, that's fine. Terrain disappears, also fine. Rillaboom always wins this endgame for us. Yeah, what's neat about this Urshifu is that Sash is just such a good item, specifically because it means I can bring it into this game with full confidence going up against the Xerneas, right? So, yeah. With Rillaboom in the back, I'm actually just curious how much Rain Dance plus Aqua Jet does. We're not going to win the game this turn anyway. Okay, they actually just end up forfeiting. Yeah. With Rillaboom in the back, it was a wrap. So, the dynamic of this matchup was really interesting because had I just gone for... Actually... No, yeah, they protect Volt Switch, and assuming they're Focus Sash on Aleki, had I gone for Tailwind Water Spout turn 1, I don't KO the Aleki. The Aleki Volt Switches out into Kyogre, which means we take a ton of damage, and then you get Indeedee in for free. Then the subsequent turn, you can just go for Follow Me Geomancy, and then I don't get that, like, 45% of damage onto Xerneas, right? Water Spout just does so much less after we Volt Switch up from the Regieleki. And it's actually really hard to win the game from there. So I think turn 1 was actually super, super important, even though the lead looked really good for us. That pivot out, like, so much of this Kyogre is that you cannot afford to take too much damage if you're planning on locking yourself into Water Spout. And so many Alekis in the format right now are Focus Sash, so I felt like I needed to respect that option, basically. And so even though the Xerneas got set up, you could see that it wasn't, like, the worst case for us at the end of the day because we still had plenty of offense to deal with it. One thing that's really important to note is just, yeah, like, Surging Strikes in the rain, that does a lot. Rillaboom in general, really valuable into Xerneas as well if you can gain control of the terrain, so all of those really added up. It's actually going to be another Xerneas team. Okay. Not what I've expected. That's pretty neat. Now, they have Torkoal, which is pretty scary. Because with Torkoal, you can obviously just switch in on turn 1 as I try to Water Spout you. Although this is where I could just go Torn Ogre, and it's like if you switch to Torkoal, I can just Rain Dance turn 1. I think it's probably just the same 4. If my opponent didn't have both Torkoal and Entei, I'd actually think about bringing Weavile, but it doesn't feel amazing here. And I'm even more incentivized to bring the Urshifu now. Like, you could go Rillaboom Tsareena, because then that's double Grassy Glide to handle the Xerneas even better. Because it's just dual priority, right? But the problem here is that they have Entei, they have Torkoal. Tsarena's really bad into both of those. It absolutely offers no damage. And it's like if Kyogre goes down, I'd actually just lose the game if I didn't bring Urshifu, right? I'm just going to go with Whim and Xerneas. Okay. Both of us trading Tailwinds here seems fairly likely, but then it's like, would your Xerneas really Geomancy? Tailwind Geomancy is one play. Switching to Torkoal Geomancy is another play. That actually wouldn't be too bad for us, though. I just don't think I need to click Tailwind here. I'm still going to go for it. Yeah, I'm just going to Tailwind Spout turn 1. I just think it's the safest play. But this is, yeah, what I anticipated. Like, I wanted a Hurricane Water Spout Whim so bad. Now the problem is if they have Trick Room on Whimsicott. Whimsicott just gets access to so many good moves. And they're not going for a priority Prankster attack. So it's either Moonblast / Dazzling Gleam. Could be Grass Knot. Or the worst case, which is Trick Room. Okay. No way! That's actually so cool. Okay. Obviously, I don't love seeing that, but it's not the end of the world. I am going to Icy Wing here. That'll KO Whimsicott. And then we can get Urshifu. And Icy Wind is actually so good for us here. But that was really cool. And assuming their Whimsicott was max speed and yet let you outspeed the Tornadus, I actually had no counterplay to that. Because like you'll always get the Endeavor off, but that is such a cool tech. That's the tricky thing about playing against Whimsicott, right? He gets access to so many good moves. So, you would think they Tailwind Geomancy here, but I could see them just going for Gleam. Well done, well done. Okay, really, really well executed. So the thing is, that breaks my Focus Sash as well. But this is still definitely very winnable, because now we've dropped Xerneas' speed, and I actually do notably have that Rain Dance on this Tornadus. But I guess the fear is now you bring in something that outspeeds that Urshifu. Yeah. Entei is what I'm most scared of, probably. Let's see. They bring out Torkoal, though, and that's actually exactly what I wanted to see, to be honest. Because what I can do in this position... It's just, do you Geomancy or do you just Dazzling Gleam right now? Because what I can do is... not Tailwind. Rain Dance and Surging Strikes. But if you're my opponent, you could just go like Dazzling. Actually, I don't think a Heat Wave from Torkoal would KO Tornadus. Well, how much damage did we take? 79? We need to do 26 damage with something in rain. I'm gonna Rain Dance and Strikes Torkoal here. Mainly because I fear a double knockout. And if Xerneas goes for Dazzling, that would actually be the best case scenario. I guess we also could have won, though, if like they did click Geomancy here, but I would Dazzle in their position. I mean, is them going for Geomancy necessarily bad? It is, because they have Tailwind and they have Geomancy, and that's really scary. Yeah, they just go for Dazzle, though. Okay, good. That's what I wanted to see. So now, I get to bring out my Rillaboom. We'll see what their last Pokemon is. Like, Kyogre is so low, but it's still, you know, hasn't fainted yet. Meaning I get one really powerful Scald off, potentially. My fear is that their last one's also Rillaboom right now, though. Ugh, it is. Our terrain does go off first. So I almost feel like here the play is to just Fake Out and Hurricane into Rillaboom, because Fake Out, Hurricane, and Glide, even if their AB is probably a KO. Xerneas here should Geomancy, though, is the thing, I guess. But the problem is that their Rillaboom will demolish my Kyogre right now. And if Xerneas Geomancies, that potentially gives me the opportunity to set up another Tailwind as well. Okay. They flinch. Here's Hurricane. Nice. Okay, that gets the knockout. That's a really big deal, because now it doesn't mean I have to focus my efforts onto Rillaboom at all anymore. They do go for Geomancy, okay. Oh, this is an intense game. The thing is that Rillaboom can also potentially take a +2 Moonblast from Xern. And if that's the case, that obviously makes things a lot easier for us. But I think my opponent played this really smart. The Endeavor tech, really, really, really cool. And I think that this team is going to impact the meta drastically. So you're going to see things like Sunny Day Whimsicott, or Endeavor Whimsicott, for example. But the way we time this is actually pretty good, right? Because now I actually just get Tailwind up again. And they only have one turn of Tailwind left, meaning that Kyogre now will outspeed. So, you can just go for Tailwind here and Grassy Glide. Tailwind, like 2 Glides and a Scald, I hope is enough to KO. Maybe they Moonblast the Rillaboom here. Either way, this is once again why Rillaboom is so essential in this matchup. Okay, that's really good damage. They go for Gleam, so I think that actually should just win us the game. Unless like Glide and Scald actually don't knock out Xerneas. They should always protect here, meaning they get more grassy terrain recovery. But then we also get some recovery. Oh, it's intense. And the other thing is we also might survive a Gleam after another turn of terrain. Like, you always protect if your Xerneas in this position. Yep. Question is whether or not like, if I'm not confident in Scald KOing, I could go for Thunder, because then I have a 30% chance to win off a Para. How many turns of terrain are left? Still 3. So you can protect, survive, protect. I think I'm just going to hope for Scald and Glide to KO, but I think there's a decent chance Zern survives it. You always protect this turn, for sure. Yep. Okay. This is where I wish we had like an Origin Pulse or something. That would be significantly stronger than Scald, but Scald is just by far the most consistent option with this team, right? Otherwise, you actually get really walled by Wide Guard, which would be super bad if your 2 options are Water Spout and if your 2 options are Water Spout and Origin Pulse. I think Zern hangs on with probably like 10% here, honestly. So, we'll see. Yeah, maybe Thunder was the correct call then. It's going to be close. Actually, I do think we get the knockout here. Let's see. Nice. Okay. Yeah, Glide was doing more than I expected there, but these Xerneas matches have been really tricky. Even though I think this team has a really good matchup in Xerneas, we've run into some wild stuff like Endeavor, Whimsicott, with Torkoal. But the Rain Dance here was huge, right? And it's funny, like, it's not like Sun is even that common in the format. You obviously have Groudon here and there, and the Rain Dance on this team dramatically improves the Groudon matchup. Of course, Santi played Wolfe in Winners Round 2, and yeah, the Rain Dance just was a huge difference maker. So I'm just sad because I haven't been able to bring out the Weavile or the Tsareena really thus far, but Tornogre has been putting in a ton of work. So hopefully in these next couple games we can get the Weavile and the Tsareena out. Okay, third game of the day, and this is Calyrex. Okay. This is actually pretty similar to Arash's team, but he didn't have Whimsicott. So Weavile is good here, for sure. Like both Weavile and Rillaboom, or sorry, Tsareena are pretty interesting. Like I feel like we should match their Tailwind. So I like Tornadus Weavile here, I think. Tornadus Weavile, Rillaboom, Kyogre. What this allows me to accomplish is that Weavile's Triple Axle will one-shot 4 of my opponent's 6 Pokemon if it hits 3 times. Whimsicott, Alecki, Rillaboom, and the Mienshao. We also have Lash Out, so that will just one-shot Calyrex Shadow Rider. So then the only thing that we're really scared of seeing is the Incineroar, but if you're from my opponent's perspective, do you really lead Incineroar into a team that has Kyogre and Tsareena? If they do, that's an amazing call in there, and I can easily say that I got outplayed in Team Preview. But very, very few players, especially in a best of 1, would do that, because the reality is, if I just lead, for example, Tsareena Kyogre and you lead Incineroar, you're just in so much trouble immediately on turn 1. So it's going to be the Whimsicott and the Alecki. Yeah, that lead makes the most sense to me. And I'm actually very happy with that, quite frankly, because this is a relatively free... do I even need a Tailwind? I mean, like, I have to respect Moonblast from this, right? I guess if you're my opponent, you can Tailwind and then just knock out Weavile, because I'm not Focus Sasher with Weavile. Honestly, the play I want to make is Icy Wind plus Fake Out turn 1 into Tailwind turn 2. Maybe they Moonblast Weavile here. If they do that, nice call. But, nice, okay. It's going to be the Whimsicott switching out into Calyrex. Nice. That puts us in a really good position regardless of what Alecki does here, honestly. Because the reality is now what I can do... And I would think Alecki's not protecting if you're making this play. Yep, exactly. Because the thing is, I even staggered my Tailwind by a turn here. But the thing that you really want to think about... You can already see how good this Tornadus set is, by the way, right? Like... Icy Wind gives us so much value into opposing Tailwind Wars and into things like Xerneas. That's super valuable. So now I can just click Tailwind. And I think I'm just going to triple Axle into the Aleki. Actually, do I need a Tailwind with Tornadus here? Because your Calyrex shouldn't one-shot me. So I can even stagger my Tailwind by yet another turn, which is kind of neat. Yeah, that seems okay. Instant switching in here is a possibility. Certainly want to respect that, and Aleki is, I would say, the bigger threat to us right now. Yeah, I honestly don't think we need a Tailwind. Oh, no, we do because we need to outspeed Aleki. Never mind. I'm going to Tailwind triple Axle here. Nice. This is going perfectly. They just bring Whimsicott back out. Okay. Protect, fine by me. What do I want to do now? If you're my opponent, you could still Volt Switch. I think we try to KO the Aleki right now. Because the Aleki is what really annoys, like, the Kyogre in the back. Whereas Whimsicott Calyrex, I can take both of those, no problem. So I'm just going to go for an Icy Wind. Actually, I like Hurricane here. We don't necessarily need the speed control yet. Actually, if I Icy Wind here, I outspeed Whimsicott next turn. So I'm down to Icy Wind and Axle into... Honestly, I kind of want to target Whimsicott here. But Whimsicott could protect. Aleki just protected. So I'll target it. Oh, but I guess now Whimsicott can just click Tailwind. And then Aleki can maybe just knock out Weavile. But I did get the speed drop onto Aleki, meaning... Okay, they do switch Aleki out. Incineroar? No, that's Rillaboom. Oh, no, sorry, Mienshao. Yeah, this is the perfect Weavile game. They did not bring a single Weavile answer, and that's really critical for us. Sweet. So Triple Axle has a pretty good chance of just one-shotting here if we get 3 hits, and that's the beauty of Wide Lens. Something that should be just over 70% turns into over like 97%. Okay. And so with this Icy Wind now, I'll outspeed the Whimsicott with both of my Pokemon, even though they've set up Tailwind. So you can see it's actually just really tough for my opponent to play the game right now, and Rillaboom in the back should actually already put us in a phenomenal position because it will just knock out the Aleki and the Calyrex with Grassy Glide and Knockoff respectively. It's like we haven't even taken damage in this game yet, and what this team does so well is normally the best counter, or one of the best counters in the format into Weavile, is going to be that Incineroar, but guess what, right? My opponent can't really bring Incineroar, given that I have Kyogre. That being said, you saw that in the World Champ, or in the Players' Cup Invitational, a lot of the World Champs, actually their adaptation was to just bring the Incineroar to try to get it Intimidate off, but it's just so hard to execute properly against this team, right? So, yeah. Because we have the Wakamberry, I think what we can do here is just Icy Wind and then switch Weavile into Rillaboom. This is super, super safe. This was already a pretty good matchup for us, and the fact that we have Rillaboom and Kyogre in the back still is even better, right? Now, there's 2 turns of Tailwind on our end, and so if Tornadus survives this turn, what I can do is switch it out and then back in, and then once it's out again, I can just click another Tailwind, which would, you know, really set us up for the end game. Okay, Whimsicott protects, that's fine. Even if you Volt Switch... Like, the one play I was nervous about was Whim switching to Calyrex. And they just T-Bolt into Weavile. Perfect. Yeah. That should win us the game, I think. Because the thing is, now, I can just Hurricane Whimsicott and fake out into Calyrex. You have no counterplay to that. Icy Wind was so good in this one for us, because, one, it actually just did really good damage across the board, but 2, it just helps a lot in, like, the Tailwind matchup. So much about this team is just outspeeding your opponent, right? Moving first before they can attack. And Kyogre often doesn't even need the Tailwind from the Tornadus to support it because it already has a Choice Scarf. But when you add Tailwind and the Icy Wind support on Tornadus, it's nearly impossible to deal with. So now, oh, actually, I don't know if I want to risk missing Hurricane here. Yeah, I'm down to just Icy Wind again and fake out into Aleki. The game's over at this point, honestly. I there's really no way to come back from my opponent as long as I don't choke the game away. Because even Whimsicott should survive a Icy Wind here. Aleki protecting is obvious. But the thing is, like, how do you do damage in a Rillaboom at this point, right? I'm Assault Vested. Like, you don't have an Incineroar. And you're left with 3 special attackers. So I could have gone for Hurricane there, but, like, it doesn't really make much of a difference to me, to be honest. Because the thing is, Whimsicott surviving here isn't even bad for us. I guess unless it has Endeavor like that last game. But even if it does, the thing is, the Tornadus hanging around is so good for us, right? Yeah, they go for Moonblast onto Rillaboom, I guess, hoping for a crit. 148 down to 93, so it's like even if you got the crit there, we would survive. Now I just launch Glide into the Xerneas slot, and I get to click Tailwind once again. Actually, I don't even need to Tailwind here. The key thing to note about when you're using Tornadus or Whimsicott or any Tailwind user is ask yourself, first of all, there's two questions I ask myself, right? One, do I get any mileage out of clicking Tailwind this turn? And that's typically like the partner Pokemon will be able to get that speed advantage immediately and take advantage of it, right? So, for example, because of dynamic speeds, it's like, okay, sometimes maybe you're not outspeeding something, but with the Tailwind, then your partner does outspeed. So that's one of the reasons to click Tailwind. The other is if your Tailwind user is at risk of getting knocked out. But here, we have the Wakamberry, and with Glide into Xerneas being a guaranteed KO, well, Whimsicott's not going to knock out Tornadus even with a critical hit. So what this allows us to do is just stagger Tailwind and give us even an extra turn to work with. And in this matchup, it doesn't make much of a difference, to be honest, I think, because, we don't really even need the Tailwind advantage at this point. Like, Rillaboom in itself was a major win condition for us. Okay, they go for double protect. They actually do get it with the Xerneas. Okay, that's fine, though. Makes sense. I mean, my opponent's only chance of winning is probably to stall out grassy terrain. Even if they do that, I don't really see an out. Or I guess, like, Xerneas is bulky enough where you actually can survive a grassy glide in terrain, but I'd be really impressed if that were the case. And because I have Wakamberry, it's like, even if you survived, don't really mind. And their Tailwind peters out. Okay, I guess what that allows them to do is now get up their own Tailwind once again. Well, like, I'm just going to go for Icy Wind and Glide. Doesn't change my play. You can't switch in Calyrex here into Glide. So, yeah, I think this game's over. I mean, we've barely taken any damage here as well. Yeah, and like, this is just a pretty favorable matchup for us, but it was even more favorable because my opponent did not bring that Incineroar. If they had Incineroar and they switched in the turn I clicked triple Axle, this actually would be a very different game. But then the thing is, that means you brought Incineroar and Whimsicott into the matchup, and neither of those do very much into Kyogre at all. So, it's like, yeah, you set up Tailwind now, but what does that really accomplish, right? And luckily for us, Tornadus connects on every single Icy Wind here, so that's nice. That should KO the Whimsicott, and now it's a 4v1. Tailwind knockoff, Kyogre comes in, Scald, GG. Actually, we don't even, well, I was going to say, like, do we want to knock off? Because Glide into Scald is actually the guaranteed KO here, I think. So, yeah, that's probably the best play. Glide into Scald is definitely a KO. Yeah. So there's no reason. There's not, I mean, like, knockoff, I guess, would theoretically potentially win us the game here this turn. But I'm down to just Tailwind and Glide. Because, like I said, there's no way Calyrex is surviving a Glide plus a Scald from Kyogre. Yeah, there's no, like, we don't really need to overthink this endgame too much, but once again, you just want to get into the habit of, like, making sure you make the perfect play, even when you have such a large advantage. There's one Pokemon that can snowball in the format. Calyrex is certainly one of them. I'd say Calyrex, you know, Stakataka. You get some boosts really quickly, and all of a sudden it's, you know, you either do too much damage or it's too difficult to KO you. But in this game, we just, you know, purely have the numbers advantage, and Calyrex can't 4v1 for us here. And this is the upside of stalling a staggering Tailwind, right? But yeah, Glide does so much. Oh, I actually go for sub. That's cute. Okay, cool. That actually will allow them to stall out my terrain, so that's pretty neat. You know, sub makes a lot of sense, right? That's the most standard set is Astro Barrage, Expanding Force / like Psyshock, sub protect, and you'll occasionally see like Mud Shot over sub. That's what Ryota had on his team. We have 3 turns of Tailwind. You have 2. Yep. Down to just Hurricane and U-turn here. It's impressive, though, that Calyrex actually survived with enough there. But Astro Barrage here won't KO. I actually don't think it knocks out either, because Tornadus is bulky. Nice. And they're Life Orb, so they actually just knocked themselves out. GG. And this is what this team does so well, right? We're running into the most common restricted, Xerneas, Calyrex, Shadow Rider. Really just needs Zacian to complete the trio. And you can see how this team is well composed enough that we have an advantageous kind of matchup against all of them, right? So, yeah. Super awesome. And let's just play one more. Okay, final game of the day. What do we got? Cool. You know, I was just saying, like, going up against all the common restricteds. Well, there's no Zacian here, but there's a Kyogre. That makes this really interesting, because I'm curious if they're Choice Scarfed. This is actually such an interesting dynamic. Like, Xerneas is what concerns me the most on their end. And then they also have Tsareena. Huh. Like, I think... I was gonna say I want to go Tornadus Weavile, but if they go Weavile plus their Tornadus... Sorry, Xerneas plus their Tornadus, that could pose some problems for us. If I'm them, what am I going? I would go Tornadus, Tornadus, Xerneas, Tsareena, Kyogre. I think the Xerneas makes this pretty difficult, actually. Alright. I'm going... Oh, they don't even have Fake Out. I feel like I need to conserve Weavile in the back, so I'm going to bring it in the back. But the problem here now is because they have Tsareena, my Rillaboom, you can just block my Fake Out or Glide turn 1, potentially. So I'm probably not going to go for either of those. Actually, it's very dependent on the lead matchup, but... Because we're AV, we can take attacks from most of their Pokemon decently well, so I'm probably going to go for a U-turn or knockoff, I would think. And they actually lead Tsareena. Now, this is a little bit frustrating, because if I actually just led Weavile, we could have just dunked on Tsareena immediately. But that's okay. I guess the thing here is that Tsareena can just go for triple Axle onto either, which is pretty scary. Is it even KO? Okay, I'm down to just Tailwind and U-turn turn 1. Okay, they got Taunt. I don't know if it's a speed type there. It's probably not, to be honest, so that's really cool. That is going to give them a pretty large advantage, actually. I don't think Weavile gets one-shot by Grassy Glide, but if it does, that would be a big issue. Taunt changes this a lot as well. There's triple Axle. They do target Tornadus as well. Okay, nicely done. Maybe Hurricane was the play there then, because if I just knock out the Tsareena, then I get my priority access back on the field. Okay, I think I have to switch Torn out, go back out into Rillaboom here. And I'm going to triple Axle the Tornadus. That was, yeah, nice lead. It's just frustrating because Weavile Tornadus was the lead I was initially thinking of, but the reason I didn't bring it was because I was nervous about Xerneas Tornadus, which is what I personally would have led in my opponent's position. So they outled me. They did a good job, yeah, not bringing that. And the reason I'm so nervous about Xerneas plus Tornadus is because, well, my Weavile doesn't have Focus Sash, and Xerneas can just go for T-Bolt and potentially one-shot it on turn 1. Taunt is also a big game changer here, because it's like if we match Tailwinds, I'm actually in the driver's seat with my Weavile outspeeding things. Oh, and they protect. Well done. Wow. That's a really risky play, honestly, but it pays off very, very nicely for them. Okay, they do just go for another Axle, though, so they didn't target Weavile. Yeah, nicely done there. I mean, I could have covered for the Protect option and targeted Tsareena, but the thing is, I've just taken so much damage with so many Pokemon at this point. I'm going to U-turn, Axle into Tornadus. The reason I'm playing this way is because I really need to get a Tailwind after they Tailwind. But at this point, I may have just lost too many resources. Oh, that's interesting. Their Tsareena... Okay, they didn't go for Grassy Glide. We're still faster than Tsareena too, so I actually could have targeted Tsareena there. But I want to eliminate Tornadus because it means I can get a Tailwind up, right? Ah, and they're going for a U-turn. Okay. Okay. It's an intense game, but I think I favor my opponent's position more now. Because you can go Kyogre and then bring... Ooh, so there's the Regieleki. Yep, that's what I wanted to see earlier on. But this is an issue because the whole point was to try to eliminate a Lecky early, and my opponent did a fantastic job. Wait, they didn't even bring Kyogre. Whoa, that is really interesting. But that may pay off very heavily for them, honestly. Wow, that's really cool. I mean, the thing here... Oh, but you're Dark Urshifu. Well, that's pretty interesting, actually. Okay. It's really a question of what item you have on Xerneas. I guess you could also just Electro Web here. Like, I'm gonna Tailwind. I want to Tailwind and just triple Axle here, but I think my opponent wins this one. They did a really, really good job with this, so props to them, honestly. I'm not even mad. They do go for webs. Okay. And it's not... I mean, it's going to connect on Tornadus. Yeah, if you hit Weavile here, then Urshifu should just close combat. Unless for some really bizarre reason your Urshifu is still slower even while we're at -1, but that would be very bizarre. Yeah. Nicely done. Nicely done. This one was really one-off turn 1. And me not leading Weavile Tornadus, I don't necessarily regret it because this matchup is pretty tricky because they have Regieleki. And the thing is, because it's like, as I was talking about earlier, so much about this team is outspeeding your opponent. But when they have Tailwind and Aleki and Taunt on Tornadus, one, I was really already struggling to match their speed. And then two, it's like the Aleki is just going to outspeed us, right? Even though we're Choice Scarfed, Aleki is just that fast. Because we hit what? 150. So that gets to 225 with Choice Scarf. Aleki can hit 277 speed, right? Which is just wild. Really cool. They didn't even bring the Kyogre. Oh, but they miss Electro Web. That's actually the one thing that maybe opens up this game for us. Oh, wait, no, but Tsareena just clicks Grassy Glide, right? Wait, does Terrain expire here? Yeah, they just needed to Thunderbolt there. That was really greedy of them. I don't know if single target Water Spout KOs here anyway, especially if they're Assault Vest. So, I feel like they probably still win, but... Yeah, I was just clicking Water Spout. I didn't even think we had a shot at winning this, but now it's actually a possibility. Alright, they are AB. Okay. So they probably still win this, because Glide does enough where... Oh, they have Power Whip. That's so risky. If you miss Power Whip, you actually just lose the game there. Like, I feel like my opponent had a much safer endgame to play there, which is T-Bolt. Because you're always going to outspeed Kyogre. You don't need that speed drop. So you just T-Bolt onto Kyogre. You can protect Urshifu there. Or Sucker Punch. But T-Bolt then means that, like, I can't win because you have 3 Pokemon. My only way of winning was Water Spout there. So it's like, I think my opponent had a 100% win con, but they actually gave me a decent chance. Like, a crit or a miss there would have won it for us there in the end. But obviously the odds are still pretty slim. That being said, yeah, I just got outlet here, and Aleki makes the matchup trickier. It's not unwinnable by any means, but I feel like we brought the right Pokemon. I don't love Tsareena. It's the Taunt on Tornadus too. Like, and there were multiple opportunities I could have capitalized off on. Right? Turn 1, like, let's say just Hurricane and Triple Axle Tsareena turn 1. That works out pretty well for us. Especially because we're still faster with Weavile, even under Tailwind. Even while their Tsarena's under Tailwind. It's just I was, like, nervous about missing Hurricane, but 70% chance, not terrible there. That was a potential play. Another potential play was the turn they protected Tornadus and just went Triple Axle again, and my Weavile with the Triple Axle into Tornadus. I could have just knocked out Tsareena there. So, yeah. But kudos to my opponent. I mean, like, that's the really interesting thing about a lot of the Tornogre teams. You don't necessarily need to bring your restricted Pokemon. That's what Santi did, actually, in Game 2 of the final set to clinch the championship. And my opponent didn't bring Kyogre, but I actually think that was a pretty smart call on their end. That being said, I think Kyogre is still a pretty safe bring for them in the sense that, like, the main things that threaten their Kyogre are my Tsareena and Rillaboom. I guess what they don't know is that I'm not running Power Whip, right? And they probably don't actually have Grassy Glide on their Tsareena, so Power Whip is probably their only Grass-type attack, meaning that was actually their only way to win the game, so that makes sense. You'll often see, like, it was clearly Assault Vest, right? So Power Whip, Triple Axle, U-Turn, and then, like, High Jump Kick, for example. Doesn't make much sense to run Grassy Glide when you don't have a Rillaboom on the team. But that is wild, right? Where it was, like, what was originally felt like a 0% chance to win actually turned into a above 15% chance, right? You have the 50% chance from the miss and then the critical hit potential as well. So, yeah. But the main theme there was that it's not like Weavile Tornadus solves all my problems. I just don't really know how I counter Tornadus Aleki. Like, even though they didn't lead that, I still think it is their best lead. Because if you go Tornaleki... I guess it could be Weavile Kyogre. I can triple Axle and Water Spell turn 1. No, but then you could just Volt Switch out. Yeah, it's the fact that I can't deny them Tailwind, and then they have Taunt to deny me Tailwind, and then, you know, Lecky just, like, can one-shot or do tons of damage into 3 of the 4 Pokemon that we brought. So I needed to conserve my Rillaboom better, and then, like, the fact that they triple Axled the Tornadus when I switched into Rillaboom was also really, really well done on their end. And that turn was interesting because they protected Tornadus, right? So I get, yeah, the switch there is fairly obvious because I got taunted, but it's like, I could have just stayed in and attacked with both and then switched out into Rillaboom because once Tsareena is eliminated, that actually paves the way for Rillaboom. So, like, I didn't really use Rillaboom correctly in that game, but it is also a little bit tricky because of the Tornadus and Tsareena, just putting on a lot of offensive pressure. But that was a really fun episode. I am glad that we got to bring the Weavile out a little bit more, and hopefully we can fully utilize Weavile and Tsareena tomorrow, but you can see how good this team is, and once again, there's a reason why Santi was able to defeat 5 world champions in a row with this team. So huge congratulations to him once again for the amazing accomplishment. Check him out, linked in the description below with a rental and a paste courtesy of him. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Don't forget to answer the question of the day, and I'll see you all next time. All right, peace.